Hello, Kanna, hear me? Feels like magic works like science from a pure community. What's up, y'all? I've put a lot of things to pop songs, because why not? And that's why we're here today to talk about compathogenics before we kick off today's show, because you already know I'm obsessed. That's why we are ambassadoring this stuff. But today's different because when I tell y'all I'm Superfan 9000, I mean it, and I've already told you all about Kanna. You heard Stephanie Wang talk about it on the show the other day. It's an empathogenic supplement that, for me, makes me feel more alive as me, where microdosing other substances can take me so far into creativity I can't get things done, and this really seems to lift my mood, and I just feel good. And it's not like life's gotten any easier. You know what I mean? So here's the thing with today's show. Before I even jump into it, I'm going to talk about microdosing containers, and I'm going to break down exactly how you could set up a microdosing container with Ka, and then I'm going to tell you how you can join my test group of it, because my master coaches in the Condor approach this is one of the things that we actually build with them as one of their offers and ways to support people before and after journeys. And I'm going to be walking through that process, building the framework. So you're going to hear more also about, if you want to jump in on that, come get 6 weeks of coaching with me and learn how I do it, how I create these containers, serve more people, all of that stuff. But that's going to happen in the show. But before I even do that, I got to cue the intro, because today we're going to be talking about microdosing and Ka. If you don't already know about Kanna, it is like one of the happiest plants on earth. It's really an essential ingredient. It comes from South Africa, and the hunter-gatherers in South Africa would chew on Kanna to enhance mood and focus and energy when they were on multi-day hunts. So more of that in the episode with Stephanie Wang back a handful or so ago. But before we go any further, let's cue the intro.
Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration. Leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Todd Cole. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
Welcome back, y'all. So I've already been talking about Kanna. I've already been talking about Ka and how obsessed I am with it. But what this episode is really about is how I'm now using Kanna for microdosing with people before and after experiences as a preparatory and an integration tool. Unlike other common empathogens, entheogens, substances that people work with for microdosing, Kanna is beautiful because it doesn't impact the serotogenic system as far as detrimental consequences like other things can. You're not required to take breaks. And in fact, I found the best effects, and Stephanie Wang speaks to this as well on that podcast episode, come from daily working with it. And so what I'm going to break down is how I'm using it in microdosing containers and teaching our coaches how. So broad overview when it comes to the Condor approach method is everything that we do is based around the 4 N's process. We have lots of podcasts on it, so I'm going to be paraphrasing and simplifying the structure. If you want to dig deeper, you can. If you want us to build it with you, or you want to experience it, then shoot me an email, team@condorcoach.com. I'll get you more information. So that's not what we're here for today. I'll share more at the end. I just want to really put the little bow on this. So the 4 N's process is broken down as intake, intention, in space, and integration, right? The 4 N's: intake, intention, in space, and integration. Whether you're running a retreat, a group coaching program, the 4 N's is an incredible process to follow so that you're kind of really bringing intentionality to the whole process. So starting with the intake process. Why would you do an intake process for a microdosing protocol? Well, with con-pathogenics, for example, I need to know some basic medical history things. People can't be on SSRIs, SSNRIs, SNRIs, there we go, MAOIs. There are some contraindications with medications because it is still an empathogen. And so that's going to come with some limitation for some folks. Secondly, from a coaching perspective, I want to know what the people I'm going to be calling in, first of all, that they're even the right fit for me. I see a lot of people trying to sell what they think the public needs. No, I want you to create containers around you. If you don't create containers that work for you, how effective do you think that's going to be for other people? If you don't like groups, doing a group coaching container might not be it. Doing one-on-one or doing long weekends when you get tired and want to go to bed early, then doing night ceremonies, probably not a good idea, right? So I really want you to listen to what I'm saying and apply it to yourself because you are unique. You are bio-individual. You are you. I am me. Even if we have a we are not the same. Similar ain't the same, as Ta Whitty says, or Ta from the Bush on Spotify. So, intake. Intake for me is I like to break it down into a two-part process. First, an application or a discovery call, which we would call an exploration call. In an exploration call, I'm using Calendly and I fill it with 10 questions of things I would want to know about that person. Things I would want to know is what kind of books have they read in the last 2 years? Or what is one of the most impactful tools or resources in the last 2 to 3 years? Are they into plant medicine? Are they into manifestation? Are they into human design? What I'm doing here is seeking out mutual context. If I'm into certain things, then the likelihood that the language that I choose and the people that language works for, it's going to be a lot closer if we have similar interests or similar teachers or similar books, podcasts, places that we gather information. So by having your 10 question, asking some of your, super exciting yes questions. What I mean by that is when you read it, you're like, yes, this person is perfect. And at least one deal breaker question. Maybe they've been through psychosis and you don't feel that you have the skills or tools to support that. Or maybe they've been hospitalized, or maybe they've got other health conditions you're not equipped for, qualified, or trained for. Those kinds of things are important to know, not from a space of exclusivity, but knowing that you have to stay within your scope of practice, which means what you're trained to do, what you're able to do, what you're qualified to do. So there are going to be some deal breaker questions for you. So that's what in the intake process, I'm taking in information about the client, and the client is able to take in information with me. So we get on an exploration call, we have some conversation, see if this is a good fit long before we get into some deeper dive about the container. We're exploring the possibility of this relationship growing. So that's step one in the intake process. Then we're assuming we're working together, right? We did that exploration call. It was amazing. We're going to go into an expansion call. This is where I'm going to gather more context. Now, when it comes to creating group coaching containers, a lot of coaches or people or shaman or facilitators will create an entire program or a retreat and they will hack it in. They'll bring all the things, tarot card, energy workers, all the magic for one of two reasons. One, they want to have the most impactful experience imaginable for their participant, or they're overcompensating what they're charging and there's some level of shame or guilt that they don't feel that themselves in the container is valued at what they're charging. So they're trying to pack it in. Literally one of the worst things you can do is try to pack in so much. I've learned it and continue to learn it over and over and over. People just go into overwhelm. They can't take any more information in. So in the intake process, I go through the explore. Then I go into the expansion form. In the expansion form, I can get more context. From there, after someone's done that, is when I start to design the program or the retreat. Now, really at the end of the day, the outcome of every coaching container and the outcome of every retreat is the same. Like, it always comes down to game changing. It changed my life. It was transformational. I had no idea this. I had no idea that. Wow, I got to connect to people. You'll actually find that the contents of it is less important than getting together the right people. And when I say right, I mean that where they harmonize, they can build community, they feel seen, they feel understood, or they feel like they really were able to grow because the container was so safe that they got to have conversations with people they never did before. And so that's why for me, when a facilitator or a coach doesn't have any kind of intake process in a coaching container, that lets me know that they don't have very much experience building community, because who you put in the room matters. And I hear a lot of facilitators say, yeah, but the benefit of all these different people is they can trigger each other as an opportunity for growth. And I'm like, sure, but I also feel like that's a really lazy way of not doing any more work, because no matter what, when you get humans together, they're going to trigger certain things within each other. But I think that a lot of it is done recklessly and, in my opinion, violently. And when I say violently is when you're not in consideration of the person's physical space within themselves, if you're not in consideration of the constructs, their belief systems. Even when you talk to them initially, they might sound quote unquote fine. They're not fine in certain environments. Or you would know how to keep an eye out for some potentials that you can help prepare the community for, during, after, to have an environment of healing. So here's an example. Let's say I wanted to build more strength in my legs. I wanted to be able to jump higher, lift heavier, just have more ability with my strength. So a effective, supportive environment for that would be getting a personal trainer who knows what they're doing, that takes you to the gym, shows you what exercises to use, explains how many reps will get what result. And the other alternative is you go into a CrossFit gym with someone with hardly any experience and they tell you to run faster, jump harder. They're not really watching your form. They're telling you to push through. They're saying only the strong survive, no pain, no gain. And then you get an ACL tear. Does everybody? No. But for me, that is the same approach I see with a lot of facilitators and coaches. They're like, I'm just going to load them down. Big and more is better and all of this stuff. And for me, it's the equivalent of someone going to a CrossFit gym. And this isn't a hit at CrossFit. I've just seen some really poor coaching in CrossFit gyms of pushing people in a way that it's harm-inducing, injury-inducing because of the nature of it, versus someone that really is looking at the form, has more focus on you, and is creating a safer container. There's not one that's better. There's also super dysfunctional personal trainers. But I think you see what I'm getting here. The intake process allows you to see who's coming in. Does it make sense, the group that you're putting together? And what layer or level of honesty can you have with everyone coming in of your intention, which takes me to number 2. So we have intake, intention, in space, and integration. So intention is, what do you want to know? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Or what do you want to understand from this process of working with me? So we did an intake process, and in the intake process, I also have an intention question, right? Something along the lines of, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you like on the other side of working with me? That is some level of intention. What I'm looking for is, do we have a similar intention, and can I actually guide you to your intention? Now, you can have an intention. It's what I intend to do, not what I'm going to do. But I can certainly see with my skill sets if I'm able to get you in your intended direction. And if you're coming to me in a supportive coaching accountability role, are you also open to that changing if that's not actually the way through, right? So intention, what do I intend to do as a coach? What do they intend to do in the program? Once we go through the intake process, the intention setting process, because how are they going to know it worked? If there's no metrics, if there's no measurement, if there's no data or evidence or any idea of them arriving to this kind of preconceived desired goal, then how will they know they get there when they get there? So I usually will ask people, how will you know you succeeded? How will you know that this was worth the time or the money? Because time is a precious resource. And a lot of times what coaches do is they don't charge very much and they forget that it still requires someone's most precious currency, which is time. Kids, family, all that stuff is what you are competing with. And so after we go through the intake, intention is when we enter in space. In space is the coaching container itself. So for example, if I, like this next microdosing kind of test group that I'm doing so I can get I'll tell you about it in a little bit. Basically what I'm going to be doing is a 6-week container. 1 week is a preparatory intention setting week. So we're taking an inventory. Where is everybody? We do kind of a welcome call for 1 week. Then we enter 4 weeks with 1 call per week for 90 minutes or an hour, depends on how many people. And then 1 week of kind of an offboarding integration. Week 1 is my intake process. We're going to set intentions and do our intake. What to anticipate for the next 6 weeks. How often will we meet? What times will we meet? What are we going to cover? This is the point that you have more of the itinerary prepared. So week 1, we're going to set the intention, do the intake process, introduce everyone. Then we enter the 4-week in space. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I'm doing a short container like 6 weeks, I might meet every single week because I'm going to teach a mini lesson. So let's say it's something like this microdosing container I'm going to run. In 4 weeks, I'm going to be teaching coaches who would like to incorporate or already are incorporating microdosing into their coaching practice, their clients. And I'm going to teach them over 4 weeks how to run, how to create, how to do an intake, how to set an intention, what to do in the space, and what to do in the integration throughout the process. Is that it is an integrated process, right? I teach integration. And so over those 4 weeks, I'm teaching each one of those pieces so that by the time they finish the 4 weeks, our final week is like a recap, and there's 6 weeks. So in week 1, I'm going to teach the intake process. What questions might they want to ask? I'm going to take 15 minutes to teach something. 15, that's it. Then we're going to spend the rest of the call sharing the results of their Condor Approach book, their weekly reflections. Right? That's why we do the first week prep, then so that we can get the book started for 7 days. Then we're going to have our first call, 15 minutes of teaching, use the Condor Approach book. What did you observe over the week? Reflections. Every person will share. This works for 10-ish people. If there's 10 people, everyone can share. If there's more than 10 people, you have to do breakout sessions. 3 people is ideal. 3 people, put everyone in breakout sessions. So it's 15 minutes a lesson, 20 to 30 minutes of sharing. Bring everyone back to see, do you have any questions, concerns, or how can we support you? That more or less gets you to about 90 minutes, believe it or not, because there's, getting people in breakout rooms, all that stuff takes time. So in week 2, if I go, first week, I'm going to teach them something about the intake process, why it's important, what questions to ask. Then we're going to talk about intention setting. I'm going to help them establish their intention setting process in their coaching container for microdosing in a 6-week container. Why? Because that is what I'm putting them through. So they get to learn it and then apply it. And then I'm sure at some point they will teach it. That's kind of the natural evolution of things. So week 2, I teach them 15 minutes about intention. Week 3, I teach 15 minutes about in space, putting together their own coaching container of 4 weeks. Remember, mine is intake, intention, in space integration. That's my 4 weeks of in space of what I'm teaching to a coach. Week 4, I'm going to teach integration practices. And then our final week is the recap or a final integration. So out of 6 weeks, welcome everybody to the call. I'm putting you through the 4 ins to teach you the 4 ins. Do you see that? I am walking you through the 4 ins to teach you the 4 ins. And once you see this process, it's so easy that you don't have to worry about this whole concept of high ticket, sell more people. I'm sorry, y'all. That is highly toxic, super not functional for more reasons than I'm going to talk about today. Yes, you can work high ticket. Yes, but most people will get one high ticket client and not another for quite some time because it's not that easy. There's not people running around with 5, 6, 7 G's to drop on a coach. And right now, with where the economy is shifting, I'm already seeing a massive contraction across the entire coaching field. And I'm talking business consultants, life coaches, financial coaches, tax consultants, like consultants and coaches. I'm seeing a huge contraction. I believe that's because there's been a lot of, besides the economy shifting, one, coaching is not a priority for most people. It is an added luxury, but psychedelics are going to be not lumped into the same category. What I believe is going to happen, we're going to see more people not be able to afford expensive retreats or expensive coaching containers. So they're going to be more open to group coaching at a lower cost, but it's got to have a provable, measurable return. They have to have a pretty clear idea that it's going to be worth the time and the money. Because otherwise, there's just too much uncertainty and all the talk in the news. Whether or not someone has money, they're going to believe or their future security is being threatened. So they're not going to feel comfortable to take big financial decisions that don't make a lot of sense or a lot of return. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the Condor Approach book, the workbook that you can get on Amazon right now. I'll put it in the show notes. I'm working with which is Kanna, which is legal. So you do need to understand some of the contraindications and medications, but it's all listed on Ka's website, so you can check it out. Also, you can get 10% off. I'll put that link down in the show notes. So you're using Ka as the microdosing substance that is legal. Y'all, everyone's waiting for psilocybin and all these other things, and that's fine, but it's not the only master teacher. You can get potent, amazing, incredible results from other things besides the ones that are still in process of being decriminalized or legalized. But in the meantime, you're teaching your community how to be mindful, how to bring self-awareness, radical self-responsibility, sovereignty, how to communicate in a group because you're giving them skills. Rather, the Condor Approach book is giving them skills as long as they show up and do it. The Condor Approach as a book is a framework or like riverbanks. The person's life experience is the river. But having a structure, having a masculine structure is what allows a river to flow. Otherwise, it's just a puddle. It's not going anywhere. It's like swampy, pond. It's also, I say that having the Condor Approach is like lines on a highway or lines on a racetrack. Can people go outside of them? Totally. But if you go too far outside of it, it's not going to be as effective, or it's going to be effective for something different if you're on a racetrack, right? So without defining some of the boundaries, some of the terms of engagement, without defining some of how people will benefit from these things, and then having metrics for that, when you're reflecting on extended periods of time, whether it's a week or a month, the mind starts to generalize the experience and label it as all good or all bad. So someone might come into your container, have an incredible week, but that's just because life was in their favor that week. But then the week after that, they have a hard week and your process doesn't work. And here's why. And they're going to build a case and all of that stuff because that's what the mind does. Its tendency to generalize one way or the other is how it's conditioned. So by having specific data-driven metrics to see what is working, what's not, is going to support a positive, we'll say, change in their life, what patterns might be functional or dysfunctional, and allow them to make the necessary shifts, openings, changes in order to really embody the life that they want. And if their life 1 week has challenges, sometimes that's when they finally get to recognize how far they've come because they go, wow, before if I wouldn't have been tracking, I would have gotten hard on myself. I wouldn't have believed that this was really, I didn't recognize how much work I've done. In the past, I would have freaked out or shut down or whatever, but the generalized part of their mind would say that it was all It was bad because I'm in a bad mood right now. So the Condor approach is not only a workbook for personal processes, y'all. If you're a coach or running retreats, the Condor approach is proof that what you're doing is working or not. But here's the thing. The beautiful thing is if something isn't as effective as it used to be, then you'll know sooner so that you can change the sales or see what's working that you never would have imagined. And it's something so much more simpler than you anticipated. Literally, by focusing your attention on this process, you're going to create accountability, not only for the person to have accountability, which makes it easy for you, the coach, to say, yep, crack open your book. Let's see how it was, even if you're doing one-on-one. And if they go, well, I didn't do the book, great, then we have nothing to talk about. Do the book for 10 days, and then we'll book another call. Y'all, that was game-changing for me because I was getting a pattern of people that would come into my field and say, I've tried everything. And I'll say, all right, well, here's this book. Start here. When you get 10 days in, we'll book our first call together. Your only assignment is to do 10 days of this journaling process, 10 minutes in the morning to report your sleep, set an intention, get your daily stress score, scan your body, check for any tension or tightness, get that ease score in mind. Start to really see where you are in the health continuum from ease to disease. And then in the evening, you'll spend 10 minutes. You're going to see what supplements or substances could have impacted your day, what your sovereignty score is, because when you're sovereign in your experience, you're able to be with your emotions without giving your power away or rejecting your feelings altogether. And so by doing the book, that gives me the data. The data helps me to coach you. I'm not a therapist, and you might be. You might be, one of the people listening right now that is a therapist. Fantastic. Then keep therapizing. What would that word be? If you're a coach like me, then I need data. This is how I get data. If you don't fill in the data, I cannot help you. And so when you let someone know at the beginning of a container that this book is a requirement, and no harm, no foul if you don't do it, but let's say in a 6-week coaching container like the one I'm about to test here, or not test, but I need to get the frameworks out of my head so I can give it to my coaches. When I'm doing that and I tell someone, all right, so if you ever don't have the book, still come to the call, you don't have anything to share. You didn't do the work. If you were taking a writing class and you didn't write anything, then you have nothing to share. When you're working with the Condor Approach book as a framework, as a data input tool, and you don't input data, then I have nothing to reflect on. That's it. It's like having a calculator. You got to pop some numbers in there for it to multiply, push plus. You've got to still put some effort in there. And the beautiful thing is you see very quickly the people that don't, and they can't blame you. It's impossible. What a gift. What a gift. It's such a beautiful gift. So in the 6-week container, week 1 is an onboarding week. So for me, this is an intake process on my side. On our first call for this 6-week microdosing group I'm going to be running, I'm going to be teaching coaches how to do the process. So intake, intention, in space, integration. First, my intake is to welcome everyone to the call. We set an intention, and then we enter my in space. When we enter week 2, I'm going to teach over the next 4 weeks the intake process. Intake, intention, in space, integration, closing week. Opening week, intake, intention, in space, integration, closing week. 6 weeks. So I know this was a lot of information. And maybe you're like, Cole, I totally don't get it. I'm doing my best to distill this down. So if you get it, if you like it, I've got to get comments, y'all. Y'all are quiet out there, which either tells me what I'm trying to translate is not translating, or it's not motivating you enough to share it on Instagram or shoot me a DM. I need some sort of feedback because I want to be able to help y'all. But I don't get any feedback from the podcast almost at all. I would say out of our 230 almost podcast episodes, I think we're at like 100 reviews, which is dope, super appreciated. But we'll go months without any feedback whatsoever. So even if you've left a review, I don't necessarily hear anything else after that. So just by shooting me a DM at the Condor Approach at Instagram and saying, I loved the thing about coaching, tell me more about coaching. I loved the thing about this, could you go deeper into that? Like, I'm happy to do that. But nobody sends me any messages, or very few. Not nobody, but it's super, super rare. And we put out 3 of these a week, and maybe that's too much. Maybe we're actually putting out too much content and you're not able to digest it, which is totally fine too. I'm looking for your feedback. I'm looking for your understanding. And if you want to join this microdosing program that I'm about to do, if you want to learn how to run microdosing containers with the 4-ins process that I'll teach you through the 4-ins process, shoot me a message at team@condorcoach.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram, the Condor Approach. Let me know. Cutoff is going to be this Friday, which this Friday would put us at like the 10th, 9th, I think. And I'm just closing it at that point. So 15 people, I can fit 15 more. I've already got 5. I can fit 15 more people, but the application will close on Friday regardless, because I am running this container so that I can get the systems and frameworks and things organized to give my master coaches so that they have this in the training portal, and so I can build this with them. So that's the purpose of this container. The price, the investment is going to be $997. $997. That will include a month worth of Kanna, which is about, I don't know, $100 worth of Kanna. And then you'll get 4 Condor Approach books, 4 weeks worth. That'll all get shipped directly to you. So you do have to be in the States for this. Because of the purpose of what I'm running, I need it to be in the States. I need it to be with Kanna. I need a consistent container with the same substance being utilized and with the book being utilized. So if you're outside of the States, sorry about it this time, but hopefully this will give you more context of how you could run some microdosing containers in a legal context, of course. And look, there's going to be times in people's journaling process that they feel like they either have nothing to write down or they say they hate writing it down. The reason that I like the Condor Approach book is because it gives prompts. If you identify as neurodivergent, you have a hard time with a lot of the questions, I'm happy to work with an amended version with you where we decide which parts you're going to do, because I know that the questions can be a lot for some of my neurodivergent folks. So I'm happy to amend it a bit for you to participate in this. The requirements will be, no, you can't be on SSRIs, you can't be on SNRIs, no MAOIs, and that's because we're getting started super soon. And according to KA, their product does not mix with those medications, so I have to adhere to that. Also, hit me up, shoot me a message. So you've got until Friday, the 9th of June. And then we're popping into the next Condor Approach next week already, which is crazy. Like, that's so crazy to me that it's already here. Registration for that is already closed. We will be starting the registration for September very soon. And we have a live event coming up in Salt Lake City, which we'll talk about soon. That'll be August 1st, so save the date. Until then, y'all, grab the Condor Approach off of Amazon. Now it's got a pretty quick turnaround. We got some more books in there. It was at one point back ordered for like a month. We got new books in there, so don't wait too long. They do tend to move pretty quickly, which is awesome. I'm stoked about it. Funny thing is, we have no idea what that number is, because I guess on Amazon, your first 3 months, it takes them 3 months to report the numbers when you first start. So I don't even know what it means. The Condor Approach on Amazon comes with a free course when you buy the book. So for $12, you also get access to an integration course. More stuff coming soon, more free stuff, more learning stuff, more friend stuff, fun stuff, happy stuff, silly stuff, sad stuff, all the stuffs, and more to come this next year. I personally am going to need more boots on the ground, because I can't handle any more people than I am. I am at full capacity of supporting folks at this time. So I need you to be able to support more folks. I'm going to need you, or those hearing the call at least, to start running group containers. So anything I can do to help, jump in. $997 can get you started as soon as 2 weeks from now. And if you're already an experienced coach, you're going to be able to start to do this right away in a way that's legal and really hit the ground running. And as more places get decriminalized and legalized, then change the substance. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The hardest part is becoming a great coach and creating community containers that are interdependent so that they're not codependent on you. Honestly, like, game-changing stuff, impact more people. You don't have to charge as much. Increase accessibility, everybody wins. All right, y'all, that's my lesson, I don't know, teaching? I don't know, whatever. So, if you like the show, shoot me a message, let me know, because I don't know. And if it makes no sense, be like, Cole, I kind of got what you were saying, but I have no idea what you were saying. Like, I want that. Give me that. Take the time to tell me that. Until next time, y'all, be easy, be free, and don't forget.
Integration is not optional.